We had Nipsey Hussle there. He was like did the after party for us.
Oh, nice.
Rest in peace, Nipsey. That was my first time really meeting him. He was hella cool. Like he came to LA. He just did the show. He just came and like just showed love. We threw this little after party.
Welcome to the Opposite Ends podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to Opposite Ends. Today we have with us Cena Barhaghi. He's the co-founder of Pink Dolphin. Thank you for being here, Cena.
Yeah, thanks for being here with us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's great to see you. You're looking good, as always.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So kind of just to get it really started. So you're one of the co-founders and owners of Pink Dolphin, an amazing, probably one of the best, I would say, not sportswear, streetwear brands out there. And so how did you kind of paint us the picture of where that got started?
Yeah. So back in the day, way back in the day, like when I was in high school, I was always like kind of doing my little side hustles and trying to start little businesses and stuff. So back in the day, I had this company called Drop Media Group that was this was like MySpace era. So I was designing MySpace layouts and like doing like album art and covers and things like that for different artists in the Bay Area. This when I grew up in the Bay Area, so I was just tapping in with like a bunch of different like local artists and things like that, doing like MySpace layouts, things like that, and just.
This is in high school?
This is in high school, yeah. So this is like my 10th grade, 11th grade.
How did you come up with this idea?
So really, like, I've always just been like fascinated by, like the hip hop world, like, and obviously like streetwear and all that is like, all mixed in together. And so, I wanted to be a producer, like a music producer. So I was producing beats on GarageBand and like kind of like learning how to use like Pro Tools and things like that. So I wanted to figure out how to get placements on artists and things at the time. And like obviously growing up in the Bay Area, this is like 06, 07, like hyphy movement era. So I'm like, I was trying to figure out how to tap in with all these like artists, because it was like the hyphy movement was huge at the time. The Bay Area was like super, super on the map with what was going on. So
these MySpace.
So I started this company called Drop, and basically like all the beats and everything we were doing, it was me and like two of my boys. So everything was underneath this company, but there was like this, like we were trying to figure out how to like tap in with all these artists and stuff, right, and get our beats placed. So I basically like created this company and we were like, one of my boys was good at like graphic design and things like that. So we kind of like, we started building MySpace layouts and things, because that was kind of like, like it was like your Instagram page back in the day, like where,
right.
But like, you could customize it and everything. So it was like your website. It was like your everything, so it was like very big for artists because they had the music player on there and everything. So we basically just started messaging like every poppin' artist in the Bay at the time, and just like, we'll do like a free MySpace layout for you, and our pages were raw. So we would like, people would more than likely like hit us back, and then we would go and like actually link with them in person, do like a photo shoot for them, and then use that to like build their page around it and do all this stuff. So I was meeting a lot of artists through that and trying to in turn like get them beats and stuff and get beats placed on people.
So that broke down that first connection.
Right, but then it kind of like tumbled into this thing where I realized that like everybody was trying to do music. Everybody was trying to, be a rapper, produce and stuff like that. And there wasn't that many people doing like that had good graphic design skills that were like, kind of like in the art world at the time, and especially in that world. So like the more and more we started doing stuff, the more and more we realized that like, like doing like the music production and stuff was cool, but it was like everybody was trying to do that, So, but like there was this huge demand for like all like the creative side of things, So that's kind of like where one, I started meeting a lot of like artists at the time that were big, and started making connections through people and meeting a lot of people in the Bay Area. This is like, I'm like 16 at the time, you know, so it's like so I started meeting a lot of people through that. And then, you know, how Pink Dolphin came about was, you know, the Pack was like one of the biggest groups at the time in the Bay Area. So one of the members, Young Yell, who I met through, you know, doing MySpace layouts and stuff for them, and I became like super cool with a lot of the guys in the group. So, you know, I was doing art for them, I was doing graphic design for them, mixtape covers, album covers, like on the side as well. And
at
then
16?
At like 16, yeah, 16, 17. So by the time I was, you know, I'd been working with those guys for a while, and then one day L hit me and was like, yo, I'm like trying to start this clothing brand. And like, obviously I was doing a lot of artwork and stuff for him. So he was like, yo, like you kind of like understand like art and like, you know, the like just, you know, how to work the programs and stuff. So do you want to help me with like some of the design stuff we need? So that was kind of how like Pink Dolphin all started. You know, it was L's concept. He was like, he had came up with the name, and he was, you know, like the group was big at the time. They were on tour with like Gym Class Heroes, who was like huge at the time. Like they were doing stuff with like Lil Wayne, like all these people that were like super lit at the time. So he was like, he kind of had like the marketing aspect, like, yo, I want to start this clothing brand. I'm on tour, I'm doing music, I'm doing, we're like, you know, this is like when like people didn't even know who Tyga was. They were on tour with Tyga before he even like got signed to Young Money. Like it was like super early days. So, you know, at the time the Pack was huge. Like, you know, they had like, you know, obviously the Van song, but they had a lot of other records that were huge at the time. So, you know, naturally, you know, like, and doing clothing lines was like, it wasn't like an easy thing to do. There's like, you know, this is like pre, obviously Instagram wasn't even out yet. It was a lot harder to like, you know, find resources to like print clothes and figure out how to like design and do all this stuff. So we kind of linked, and then I just started, you know, while he was kind of like the marketing aspect of it, and like, okay, like overall, like this is what we should do, or like this is cool, this isn't. I was kind of like at home, you know, I was in high school at the time, but I'm like, I'm trying to like really pop something off and get something going, you know, because I always just had this mentality of like.
So how did you do that with like balancing? Well, two questions really, because how did you do that with balancing school and I remember you mentioning that earlier that you were also working at the same time, like other jobs, no?
Yeah. So I was like, 'cause my parents cut me off at like 16. So like I was working jobs, like just trying to, you know, obviously I was like living at my parents' house, but like I wasn't like really given like allowance money per se, you know? So right. I was like, so that was like my like having any kind of money to like do stuff like extracurricular, but it was like I was using a lot of that to like get around and go places and be able to like tap in with people and network and do things and be out there, because I'm still like, I didn't even have a car at the time, you know? So I think as far as like balancing, it came like, you know, like I was, it didn't really like, it wasn't really until like the year after when I went to college, it was like my first year at college, where that's where stuff kind of got a lot more difficult, right? Because I was in college, like my first year at college, I'm living on campus, I'm working like at one point I was working 3 jobs all at once.
Where did you go to college?
San Jose State.
Okay.
Yeah, so
3 jobs.
Yeah, at one point I'm like trying to do 3 jobs. School was always kind of like back burner for me. Like I was always doing school, but it was always like this like plan B thing, you know, where I was like my plan A is like to like pop something else off.
That C's get degrees mentality, or
I mean, I'm actually like pretty smart, so I would just like when I was in school, I just wouldn't really like do homework, you know what I'm saying? I would go to class, I'd try to like soak up as much as I could, and then it was like try to like figure out how to like, you know what I mean, like pass the class, you know. I didn't really have time to to do like homework and like study per se. So it was like I was just trying to figure it all out while I was actually spending those hours in class, because as soon as like I left the classroom, I had to either I had to go like work some job to try to make money, or it was like going like work on, you know, the clothing stuff was like really kind of it, you know, like the first year was my senior year in high school, so it was kind of like a hobby thing. Like then my second year was like my first year in college, and it was like super distracting trying to like do all these things, and it's like your first year at school, so you're trying to like, you know, it's your first year like not living at your parents' house, you're trying to party, you're
How
trying to do
much
all this
time did
stuff.
that take up with the brand?
I mean, it was, I was kind of doing it at my pace, you know what I'm saying? Like I'd found a print shop to print our stuff that was like walking distance from campus. So it was a long walk. It was like a 45 minute walk, but like it was still a walking distance. I could make it there if I needed to. So I was just trying to balance all these things, and it was going, like it was cool. We were kind of building this little like really grassroots fan base during these first 2 years. It wasn't really until my third year when I, you know, my parents paid for me to live on campus for that first year. My second year, they were like, we're not paying for it, so either you're paying for it or you can live at home, because we lived kind of close by. They were like, you could just commute to school, like it's a waste of money. So it wasn't until my second year when I actually moved home that I was like, yeah, I really got to pop this shit off, you know, because I was like, this school shit is like, it's cool, but I'm just seeing, I'm trying to like, you know, I'd kind of got that like first breath of like not living at home with my parents, and then like the moment I moved home, I was just like very motivated, like, yo, I gotta grind the fuck out of this shit and like
So what was
make
that
bread and get the fuck out of here.
What was that moment where you kind of realized, because did you finish college or?
Nah, so that second year when I moved home, I quit all my jobs. I filed for unemployment. I was like, this shit'll hold me over for like a year, like 9 months or however long it lasts. And then during that period of time, it was like I would like go to school, I'd come back, and then it was like I was just fully working on Pink Dolphin at the time. So that was like, that's when I started really, really taking it seriously. And then by the end of that year, things were just starting to like, it was kind of like starting to take off at this point.
Everything was coming together.
Everything was kind of coming together, but I was still living in the Bay. So I knew like so many people in the Bay at this point. I felt like I was kind of like at a ceiling. I kind of reached a ceiling, and we were, at this point, we were starting to like bring more people in. So I had like, you know, we had other partners. So we had some like, and L was in LA. My other partner was in LA. Like everybody was starting to like come to LA. So I was in the Bay, and I was doing these like, I had classes like twice a week. So I'd do classes, and then I'd fly to LA. I'd be out here for like 3 days at a time. Then I'd fly back to the Bay to go like knock out school. So it was kind of like getting to this point where I ran that like back and forth hustle for like a couple months, and then it kind of got to this crossroads where I was like, I need to make a decision. Like, what am I doing? Because shit was like really starting to take off, and school was getting harder because I'm like about to like finish my sophomore year, going to my junior year, and it's like, you know, stuff starting to like so I'm like,
it's all piling up.
Yeah, so I'm like, I got to figure out what I'm doing, because the moment like school, like I had classes Tuesdays and Thursdays. As soon as class would end on Thursdays, I'd get on a plane, come to LA. I'd be here for like all the way through Monday night. Monday night, I'd fly back, be in school Tuesday morning. I'd be up there for 3 days, and I'd do 4 days out here. So I was running that back and forth for like 3-4 months, and then it kind of got to this point where I had like this, just I was kind of at that crossroads. I was like, I got to figure out what to do, and then boom, I like just decided to drop out and come to LA full time. I was like, I got to do this, you know.
How
like,
difficult was that decision to like leave school?
Like
was
yeah,
Pink
I mean, you know, it was at the end of the day, it was always like my backup plan to like finish school and go that route. But it was more for like my parents, you know, like they wanted me to finish school. They want, you know, it's like obviously like, you know, growing up, that's kind of like the path, like, you know, you're told like you're supposed to do is like, you know what I mean, like finish high school, finish college, and then like, you know what I mean, get your degree, go to get like some entry level position somewhere, work your way up, and like, you know, like that's kind of like the path that you're told like is the right, not like, I don't know, like just like
the majority of
the safe path to do
Right.
in life. So, you know, I kind of knew that I was different. I didn't want to do what everybody or what like I'm being told by everybody to do, but it was kind of a hard decision at the same time, because I have like, you know, obviously like my parents and my family telling me I should stay in school, and like kind of some of like my smarter friends that were like doing good in school and stuff being like, you shouldn't drop out. And then I got like my other friends who aren't in school and like doing all this other shit. They're like, bro, fuck that, like go do your thing, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, you know, it's almost like you kind of got like all the good people in your life like telling you to like stay in school, but then ultimately I was just like, I gotta go do what I gotta do. I'm like, I come back and do school whenever, but I'm at this point where like if I don't go this route and pursue what I really want to do, like this whole shit that I've been working on is gonna probably fizzle out, because I'm not gonna have time to,
Right.
you know, and I can't do both because I'm gonna half-ass them, you know. So
When
So
did you start seeing your first success with Pink Dolphin?
so it's crazy. So we had that year when I dropped out of school, I came to LA. So I remember the day I like put everything in my car that I had left at my parents' crib, because I had like a little temporary spot out here that I would come back and forth to. But so I put all my stuff in the car. I drove to LA, and we had signed up for like there's this big trade show back in the day called Magic. It's still around, but it used to be a lot bigger back in the day. So we had signed up to do the Magic trade show, and that shit was like maybe 15 20 days from like the day that I dropped out of school. That was when we were supposed to do that show. It was our first time ever doing a trade show, and that stuff, like, you know, it's kind of like the big debut. Like,
What is
doing a
that?
trade show.
Trade show? Is that's
So-
where everyone
so-
debuts their?
It's kind of like it's like the big like just like where you get all like the buyers from all the stores, and everybody kind of like comes and like places orders and stuff, like how you kind of like break, like at the time, this is 2012, this is early 2012s when I dropped out of school, and this was the spring show in February. So so you know, it's the spring show. You're showing your fall winter clothes, and then like you have all these different sales reps and stuff that are, you know, from you have your sales reps work in the show, and then you got like buyers from all the stores that come and like check out the stuff, and like people are looking for new brands, people are like placing orders with, you know, you're peeping like whatever it is and placing orders. So, you know, now it's a little different because stuff's like so digital now. Like people obviously still do trade shows, but the reason why like the whole trade show stuff has been kind of on a downturn the last couple of years, obviously with COVID, like made it worse. But even before that, like, you know, it's like now you got like digital line sheets, digital stuff like that. So what you just send people. But when we were doing it, it's still like old school. Like you come with like your catalogs, your presentation, like people like
Right.
actually physically write orders in, you know what I'm saying?
That
Like,
was the first one you guys had done.
yeah, so it was and them shows are like, you know, they're not like expensive. I think it's like 15-20 grand to do it, you know. At the time, that's like a lot of bread. So so when we had already signed up for the show, so I was like, I came to LA, I didn't, but I remember I took Adderall. I didn't sleep for like 3 days. I was just working. I was like, I got to get this shit done. We're so fucking behind for the show. And then whatever, it all came together. We did the show, and it was crazy. It was like that's when like I really knew shit was about to take off, was because at the show we were like the hottest brand there, you know, and we had like our booth was crazy. We had like 1 million people there. Like all the store buyers were like, everybody was trying to like buy shit for their stores. Like we had Nipsey Hussle there. He was like did the after party for us.
Oh, nice.
Rest in peace, Nipsey. That was my first time really meeting him. He was hella cool. Like he came to LA. He just did the show. He just came and like just showed love. We threw this little after party in one of the hotels for like the buyers and stuff like that. And man, it was a crazy weekend. And I was like I wasn't even 21, so you know, I'm like 20 at the time of the show. So, you know, I'm not even like, I can't even like really drink in Vegas, you know what I'm saying, go to
Right.
clubs or whatever. So it was a surreal moment. I think that's kind of like when shit really started to like come together.
How many people did you have in your team back then?
Or
was it just the two of
so
you?
we had earlier that year, the show's February 2012. I remember right around January 1st, 2012 was when we got like we rented like our first warehouse out here. Is about 1,500. No, it was about 2,000 square feet office warehouse space, and then we started hiring people at that time. So before January of that year, we didn't have any employees. That's when we started hiring people. We got some sales reps, all this stuff. So this stuff all literally came together within like that month and a half, and that's why in that moment it was also like my decision to just drop out of school and just come out here full time and do this, and just like really just like put it all on the line and just see what happens. Because I was like, if this shit fails, like, it's cool, I go back to school whenever, but I'm not going to get a second chance at doing this, you know, with like all the momentum that was building up at the time.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with and are really nervous and scared to do is take that risk. Because I mean, just like you, so many people go to college just because they want to make their parents happy, right? I mean, that was a big reason for me. And you know, your parents always want you to get the degree and go the safest route. So that's really amazing that you were able to just like, you know what, I need to chase my dream. But that leads me to my next question is, so was that show, was that the pinnacle point where you said like, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I need to do, like this is where I want to take my career?
I mean,
because you've just left
point,
behind not only school, you dropped out of school, but you left behind the MySpace. I mean, MySpace was already going down by then.
For sure.
And then your kind of goal of becoming a music artist or a producer, did that just like disappear?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of realized like this was like my space, you know what I'm saying? I was like, this is what I'm good at. And the more like I was doing it, the more I'm like, it was all just like very like intriguing to me. And it was cool because we were having like, you know, prior to this, it was like, you know, we had like all these like artists were starting to like wear our shit. Like, you know, at the time it's like, you know, like Chris Brown wore our shit. Big Sean. This is all before the show had happened. This is like the year before, as stuff was like bubbling. It's
and
like
how did you get these guys to wear your clothes?
Just like, you know, some of it was like, you know, from us like just coming to LA and just like running around, like just organically like hustling, just networking, like, you know, the same way like people, you see people trying to do it nowadays, but you know, like running around, like whether it's like at the clubs or it's like going to you know, like popping up at video shoots and stuff, and it helped having like, you know, some connections already like in the music industry, or like just, you know, like obviously like L was signed to a label, so like we kind of had some plugs in with him. And then it was like, you know, I had like my network of people in the Bay, so it was like, you know, some of like the people that, you know, were starting record labels and things like that up there that people were signed to. So it was just like, I don't know, just kind of like, and they were already, some of them was already in LA. So when I was in LA, it was like, you know, but then some of it's all obviously like meeting people and continuing to like build those relationships and just like be around people. I remember like the Chris Brown look at the time was like one of our printers who was printing our clothes was like, they were also working with him, so they were doing some stuff. And that was like, I remember like the first picture of him in an airport wearing the hoodie, like they had just given him one. So that was just like, it would just like be like random stuff, but you know, obviously, you know, it's like, it's always like about who you know and kind of like how you're utilizing those relationships. But
right.
yeah,
I feel like right now so many people feel and kind of are motivated to kind of create their own brands. I know of quite a few people that are trying to create their own clothing brands, whether it's a fitness brand or a streetwear brand, whatever. What was like the big, from like your learning experience, what was like the big aha moment that you realized like, oh, this needs to be done, or like we need to implement this for us to be successful?
I think right before that show was like, we didn't have any sales reps, right? So we were like, we were going to do that show, and obviously you have to have sales reps like selling your stuff at the show. So so that's when we were kind of like on this like hiring spree, just trying to like bring in people, like, and you know, we hired like our first sales rep, and he kind of like brought in a lot of that knowledge that, you know, I didn't have from that side. You know, I'm like the creative and the designer, and, you know, and we brought in my boy Colt, who, you know, he's still with us today, but he's, you know, it's been almost 10 years actually this month that he's been with us. Exactly. That was January of 2012. So, he kind of brought in a lot of that knowledge after, like, you know, I think that was like a missing component at that point for
Having
sure.
the sales rep?
Having sales reps, yeah.
So what does the sales rep do for people that don't know?
Because this is also way before social media really took off with
yeah,
Instagram.
Yeah. This is like very early Instagram days. I mean, Instagram started popping in like, you know, like 2011, I'd say, maybe, like kind of starting to bubble by 2012.
I don't think I made mine till 2013.
Yeah, probably like 12, 13 was really when it really started going crazy. But, you know, I remember Instagram, and that shit was just like a photo editing app. It wasn't even a social network. Like, I had an account back when they literally had just first launched that shit, and I only had it because it was like you do all the cool filters on it, and that's all it was. And you would post it to Facebook. But anyways, I forget the question. What were we talking about? I just got super off topic.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about the sales rep and
what does the sales rep do?
Right.
It's like now it's so different, you know. Now
Yeah.
it's
I
more
honestly
like digital
have
marketing.
I have no clue what the sales rep does.
Yeah, I mean, so
When you
basically,
start
like,
your own brand, you'll know.
so basically, like,
So-
we would, like, so like, okay, like in the clothing world, it's like, you know, you're always like, about like anywhere between like 6 months to a year ahead from like like something releasing. So let's just say like, we're gonna drop something for this winter, right? Which would be like an October, November time, like release in time for the holidays. So you start like working backwards from that point. So like, let's just say like we're designing that right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm designing that gets finished, you know, next month. From there, we spend like a month to a month and a half like sampling the stuff and making samples of like the stuff we're trying to make. Is not a full production run, but just samples. And then from there, we have the samples. We'll start like, now we have physicals. We'll start building like the actual catalogs, like around like, here are the items, and then you give that to the sales reps along with like the physical samples, and then they go out and they sell it to stores and retailers and things like that.
Oh, so they kind of represent you guys as the sellers.
And
okay.
then they go out and get orders, like, so let's just say they go to like, you know, like a mall store like Zoomies or something. They go and they show them the physical, those samples, like, okay, this is like what we're dropping in holiday time, winter time for November. This is still like, you know, 4 months before the line's maybe 4 months before the line is going to come out and release. So they get like physical orders written by all the stores, like, this is what I want to buy, boom, 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 these are the sizes I want. And then they come back, and then we go and produce all this stuff. So we have all these numbers, we go and produce the stuff, and then 2 months later, after everything's produced, then we ship it to the stores. So it's kind of like this like long process, and we've tried to like throughout the years like try to shorten the timeline process as much as possible, because it, you know, the faster you can get things done, the faster you can get things produced, the shorter lead times and stuff you have, it shortens this whole process down, because, you know, you have to kind of work backwards, and that's why you're having to design stuff so far ahead of time, you know, before it comes out. So the sales reps essentially are just, once you have like those samples and your catalogs and things like that, they're able to go out there and sell the product and come back with orders that are essentially like, okay, this is like, here's $100,000 order from this store, here's $100,000 order from this store. So you kind of like know that you're gonna ship X amount of product for this, and then obviously like whatever orders on top of that you're placing for your online e-com store and things like that, if you have your flagship stores or whatever, is separate. But this is just if you're doing wholesale. So if you're not doing wholesale, you don't really need a sales rep.
Man, there's
you
a whole other process I had no idea about with creating a clothing brand.
Now, how much of your business is online and how much is still, you know?
So I mean, obviously, like the pandemic, when that shit happened, like all the stores shut down and everything. So we had to like make a bunch of like changes last year, or shit, 2 years ago now, a year and a half ago. So it, you know, I think like when we first started our business, it was like obviously all online. Like there was no wholesale part of the business. That didn't really start till 2012 when we started like, you know, having a sales team and doing trade shows and stuff like that. You're obviously able to do a lot more volume and a lot more numbers when you the more like stores you have, because there's more distribution. You know, it's just like anything, like a product's being in, you know, if you have a product, you know, getting it in stores, you know, or whatever it is. So so that kind of like gradually started to shift like that percentage of like online versus wholesale business. And, you know, the more that grows, the better that kind of is for like, you know, getting like the brand out there and things like that. It helps with visibility and everything. So, I think, you know, at some point we were probably maybe like 60-40s, like 60% wholesale. So it started like shifting a lot because, you know, obviously but online you can still reach the whole world, but some of these stores have like, you know, they have their chain stores, they might have like 100 doors, you know, or like whatever. So you're kind of able to scale that and do a lot more with it. And then when the pandemic happened, we kind of like flipped a lot of that, and I was just like, yo, let's like because there was so much like uncertainty with like that year in 2020, like when are stores opening, when are stores closing, like okay, it's open, shit's closed, they're gonna shut it down again, like, you know, there's so much like uncertainty. It's very hard to like plan your business around it. So I just like took off like pretty much the rest of the year from doing wholesale, because it was too volatile at the time to be placing orders like 4 or 5 months ahead and trying to bring in like millions and millions of dollars worth of goods, and then, you know, you're stuck and you can't ship them because, you know, stores are closed or whatever. So we just kind of like, I was like, yo, let's like, and then like during the pandemic, like e-commerce started going like really crazy because everybody was at home shopping, getting stimulus checks and whatever was going on, PPP loans and unemployment stuff, and everybody was getting the bag. So everybody's like online shopping going crazy. So we had like this crazy surge in online shopping. So then I was like, oh, fuck it, like we're gonna just like, you know, and then that kind of like shifted a lot of the, just like, you know, like stuff started shifting to like work at home. Like we started like, or the work from home stuff started happening because of COVID. So I started like just freelancing like all of our designers and stuff, having people come into the office. I was like freelancing a lot of that stuff, and then just kind of like shifting more into this like work from home model, like what was kind of going on with that. So we kind of shifted a lot of it back and like brought it a lot of it back to e-commerce. And then you know, like last year we kind of like started going back to like shipping again, like going back more into the wholesale world and shipping that. So I think right now it's kind of like at a healthy medium where I would say like it's.
Are your stores back open?
No, like so last year like I actually like shut down our LA store because there was just like so much going on at the time. And then like and then like we had like an 8-year lease on the spot. The lease ended last year, or sorry, take that back, I keep forgetting what year we're in. 2022. The lease ended like summer of 2020, so we had like an 8-year lease there. So we opened that store summer of 2012. So at the time, like all the stores in LA were still closed. Like that riot had just happened, you know, like the LA riots and all that stuff. So and then they were like pressing me to like do like a 3-year lease at the store, and I was like it just felt like the world was like in shambles at that moment, like especially in LA. Like there was so much shit going on, everything was closed out here. So I was like, they kind of like weren't really working with me on trying to like, I was like, yo, let's like for now, like let's just do month to month until we can open our store back up, because we hadn't been open since March. So they're just like kind of giving me a hard time with it, and I was just like, yo, fuck it, like I'm not signing a 3-year lease right now. So we just kind of like, I just kind of like stopped with that. And then it's like and I was like, I'll just like reopen it like once we figure stuff out.
What was was the point where you kind of saw that you had succeeded, like you guys made it?
Yeah.
Was it a certain revenue you hit, or
No, I think it was more of like, I think 2012 was just a big year, right? Because that was like the year I dropped out. Is the year we did our first trade show. It was the year we like got our first office and like warehouse and stuff like that. We started hiring employees. So I think like all the celebrity looks are cool, like seeing like your favorite rappers wear that shit is dope. But I think it was really when I was like, I was in LA. This is like probably like summer 2012, and I would be like driving around LA and I'd see people wearing our shit. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it was in the streets or it was like at the club or it was like wherever, like I was just seeing people wearing shit, and people would like, and I would like get texts or like videos or get tagged and stuff of like people just seeing like somebody wearing something somewhere. And that's when I was like kind of like, oh shit, like it's real. You know what I'm saying? Was when I would like just drive around and start like seeing people everywhere wearing our shit. Was like,
so how long was that? That was 4 years from when you guys started to when that started happening.
Yeah.
So it takes a little while to build like I feel like a lot of the best brands have built some kind of community around that, and I mean you guys definitely built a big community, and for you guys to see people on the streets or wherever, like you were saying, wearing your brand, I'm sure that's really boosting. So it takes a little while.
It does. But like, what advice do you have for someone who's just starting a clothing brand? I think do you think the market is saturated now, or is there still space for someone to succeed?
I mean, there's always space for people to succeed. I think actually right now with I feel like there's always like these waves, right? And I feel like when the pandemic happened, like a lot of the brands pre-pandemic like are gone. You know what I'm saying? Like because that shit, like, it's small businesses, so a lot of people take hits. Like that's like small businesses are always like get hit the hardest when shit like this happens. So and on top of that, like I feel like the scene is always changing with what's going on in streetwear. Like things, it's always like a cycle of like, like old shit like becoming popping again, the new shit like not being cool, and then like, like it's always, everything's like, cyclical like that with fashion and stuff like that. So I actually think that right now is like a good time to start a brand, because there's like, we're kind of like coming out of this like pandemic phase. I think hopefully in the next couple of years, like shit will be like start opening up a lot more than like, it's still right now. There's like, I think like certain places it's, people are still like starting to go out there again and do shit. But I think that there's going to be like, there's this like whole new wave that's going to happen with clothing and streetwear in particular. And so I think it's actually a great time like now to like launch something new. Like I think like the game needs some new shit. You know what I'm saying? So
right. But so like someone in your situation where they're in school and they're kind of deciding like, I really have this passion of starting a brand, or whether it's clothing or it could be really any kind of business, like what do you recommend to that young crowd that's hungry, but they're kind of nervous to leave that safe environment of, finishing school and like.
Yeah. I mean, shit, I don't want to be like that guy with that influence,
No,
like,
I don't think it's
out of school or whatever. But I think like, at least for me when I was doing it, it was like, it was a risk, but it was a calculated risk, right? It wasn't like, I was just like, I'm going to just drop it out and I'm going to just like go try to start some shit. It was like, I kind of already like been working on some stuff, and then this was like my plan B. But it was like, if this was to start taking off, it's like, all right, like it's a calculated risk for me to, drop out.
Right, because you had already been working on it. And
it was kind of like bubbling. It was kind of like, it felt right. It wasn't like I was just like just taking this like random risk and just being like, I'm gonna just drop out and just like move to a new city and just like start trying to figure shit out. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't that kind of a situation. I mean, I think, ultimately I think it's just, you you got to just really want it, and you got to want to like put in those extra hours. Like if you're like, it's possible, like nobody's ever too busy, right? Like you can still be doing one thing and have like something else you're working on as well and have the time to do it. It's just, you know, you might just not have like a life outside of, like, you might not be able to have hella time to go party and hang out with your homies, but like
there's always a
time.
sacrifice.
There's always like some sort of sacrifice you can make to like figure it out. And I think a lot of people nowadays are like, people get caught up in like all this like social media shit and just like watching what other people are doing and people trying to copy each other and all this stuff. But, you know, I think you got to like take a step back and just kind of like figure out like what it is you're trying to do, and then like really put in that extra time. Like all this shit, like social media doesn't show a lot of like the hard work that goes on behind the scenes with stuff. It doesn't show people don't like showing their failures on social media, you know, because that's not like cool. It doesn't get views really. Like people want to see like, you know, they want to see all the fly shit, and they want to see the fucking
final product and everything.
Yeah, and they just want to see you, like, people just like, it's like this whole like just like all this ego shit that's on social media, right? And it's like all the cool shit and people like doing all this stuff, but it's, you don't see a lot of like the failures, people down bad, because people don't post that shit. Like, why would you? You know what I'm saying? No one's posting themselves like doing bad. So it's crazy, because I feel like people's minds are kind of warped by a lot of that, because you see all the like, you know, people like, depend like what they follow, it's like you see all this shit. A lot of times you don't see the hard work,
you only see the success.
Where does the name come from, Pink Dolphin?
Pink dolphins are real animals, so they're like really rare animals, but there are pink dolphins that exist in the world. So, you know, when we started the brand, it was we didn't have that much money in the beginning. So when we started the brand, we pulled together like a couple $100. We printed our first run of t-shirts, we put them online, and shit sold out, and people kept asking us like for more stuff, and they were like, what? And then every time we would kind of like make some more stuff, we didn't have a lot of bread to like make so much stuff, so shit would just like sell out, and then there wouldn't be stuff for a while. So it was kind of like a spin on that, like, you know, Pink Dolphins being rare, and then like the clothing brand just being rare. We were just spinning it to people like, yo, it's like, it's rare and it's limited, but it was like really because we didn't have money to produce so much product. So once the brand actually started taking off, I made an effort to like just make sure that everything we did was limited runs. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it was like, it could be like 10 different colorways of the same design, but each one of those 10 colorways is like limited in itself. So yeah, that's kind of like the backstory on the name.
Nice. Well, what are you working on now?
Man, we've been so I launched my NFT project, my like first like NFT art project on Halloween last year. So which is kind of like inspired by like stuff that I've been working on with Pink Dolphin and Rare
Ghost Club.
Rare Ghost Club. So it's kind of like inspired by a character that I drew for Pink Dolphin years ago, like a decade ago. So it's kind of like, you know, I've been in like the crypto space for a minute, and then obviously with NFTs taking off last year and really taking off right now, I've just been kind of watching from the outside in. I've been in the space. I was really talking about it up until like 6 months ago like that, but you know, I've just been watching and kind of doing my research, and then, you know, when you know, the whole generative PFP project started kind of taking off, like, you know, like after like late summer last year, I was like, it all just kind of hit me. I was like, yo, I need to do this project. Like, this makes so much sense.
Create this NFT.
Yeah. And I was like, 'cause I just had like this crazy idea for it, and I was like, yo, like, I need to do this. So I spent like, I didn't even tell anybody. I worked on it for like, it was just like me and my boy Colt, what I was talking about earlier, like me and him just like, I really sat down and just kind of cranked out all this art for it for like a month and a half, like 45 days. I was just at the crib locked in, just doing all this art stuff. And that was like another one that was like a big risk, right? Because the space is so new, where I'm like, fuck, like if the art doesn't come out right, or if like the project flops, or like we can't sell out the project, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, it was like a new thing. So when I was like doing it, it was kind of a big risk. But I talked to a couple people. Some people were like, like a lot of people don't like really understand the space, or at least didn't even back then. Some they might now, but people were like, it was like a lot of mixed reviews, and like most people were like, you shouldn't do it. Like they're like, you should just wait. Like, oh, like I don't know if it's gonna, like, you know what I'm saying, like make sense or whatever. So people like didn't really see the vision, and then I was like, fuck it, like I'm gonna do it, you know. So I just didn't even like really tell anybody about it until the whole project was done, and then I launched the project, and then we dropped the NFTs within 10 days of announcing the project, and then it went crazy, like sold out that first weekend. And then it's been like a super cool journey, you know. The project been out for almost 3 months now, so it's doing really well, and I have like a lot planned for it, but it's kind of like also my first like leap into like this whole world that's going on, and just like I've met so many people and like made so many connections since putting out the project, and it's just super cool. Like I'm kind of like,
it's a whole new world.
Yeah, and it's just like you see all these like big companies and corporations, everybody's trying to figure out how to get like a piece of it right now and how to get in. And I think it's definitely the future. Like it's where everything is kind of headed, you know. Everything's kind of going digital right now. You know, kind of back to that like work at home mentality. Like I feel like the pandemic also kind of flipped a lot of shit, where like a lot of people are at home more now than they are like in an office or something like that. So, you know, naturally it's like people are on their computers more. People are like, you know, trying to figure out, you know, I think, you know, during 2020, like a lot of people were fucking around with the stock market and shit. So, you know, I think people started seeing all this like, all the people started making all this money on the stock market, and then now it's like, then
it's all the
crypto
FOMO
shit started going crazy. So now it's like, you know, NFTs is like kind of like the next wave of like what's going on, but it's also, we're so early in what's happening, because this, like, just like with Web3 and blockchain, like there's just so much shit that can be done. Like we're just kind of like at the tip of the iceberg right now.
Right.
Like there's just so much shit that's going to happen over like just this year, you know, like we're going to see so much stuff happen this year in the space. So I'm like really excited about it. I mean, we have like, I've been building a team, like we've been putting together, you know, just putting together all the pieces, and, you know, I'm like helping some other people launch projects. I've been kind of advising on some stuff now that I've done it, because it is hard. It's kind of like an unknown space. Like if you don't all the way know what you're doing, it is a little risky, especially if you have like a brand or something, or like you're putting your name up behind it. So so that's kind of like, you know, what I've been really working on, and just like it's kind of like it kind of like just gave me like rejuvenated me, like in just like in the creative space, and just like this whole like unknown world, like that hasn't been like tapped yet, but like I see like how much opportunity there is in Web3 and just in blockchain, and what, like, especially as a creative, what you can do in this space, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see where Pink Dolphin goes for than where it's come now, and also where Rare Ghost Club is going.
Yeah,
it's been amazing to see how it's grown so far in the last 3 months. Now that it's been, it's been great. And well, we really appreciate you coming on here.
Thank you for coming on
with us.
Absolutely, guys.
You're the man.
Yeah,
thanks
for having me.
Tune in on Monday. This is Cena, aka Lord Wave, the Beast.
Are we you guys dropping this video? Is the video going live?
Yeah,
too?
Video's gonna be live.
Fire.
Smash the subscribe button, flick that like, thumbs up, everything. All right.
Thank you.
Till next week.